Do some poetry.
We all know how important it is to eat healthy these days, so here's one of your 5 a day. This is a poem called Cabbage. My mum cooks the finest cabbage in the world. It melts in the mouth. It's beautiful. And that might sound absurd because in Britain, cabbage is usually boiled to a soggy mush. The Ukrainian style, however, is amazing. When it comes to cabbage, my mum is the boss. Thank you. As you may have gathered from some of the material in that poem, I was brought up in a Ukrainian household in Britain, and as I was growing up, cabbage was always an important part of my life. Well, it still is actually. But I must emphasise, my mum's cabbage is absolutely amazing. But the thing is, the cabbage poem is part of a longer collection called If Spider-Man Were Ukrainian, which is all about growing up in a Ukrainian household in Britain. But it's also a postscript to some family histories. So my family lived through some real hardships. My dad was born in Ukraine in 1927, and when he was just 5, the ruling Soviet state imposed grain requisitions that were so extreme it led to mass famine, and 7 million people died in an event that became known as the Holodomor. After that, we had Stalin's purges and terrors, and then of course 1939 came along and World War II arrived, and when the Nazis invaded the Soviet territory in 1941, then Ukraine was their first stop, and of course they brought their own brand of brutality. So yeah, my dad lived through some really tough times, and unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond his control, he was forced to leave Ukraine, and he ended up coming to Britain as a refugee. So the collection is called If Spider-Man Were Ukrainian, and it's some fragments of childhood memories, some are stories from more recent times, we've got stories from the 60s and 70s, and some stories from when I was a boy. I regularly visited the newsagents with my dad. He let me choose from the comic rack. He pushed a pile of pennies into my hand. Sometimes I wonder what he might have thought of the colourful titles I chose. A range of swashbuckling men in tight-fitting costumes, Marvel superheroes. Not so different from Ukrainian Cossacks who lived and fought on the steppes. Zaporozhye, proud warriors, brave soldiers, free men in the truest sense. If Spider-Man were Ukrainian, his costume would be blue and yellow. He might grow a big moustache and say "Dobry den" instead of hello. If Spider-Man were a Ukrainian Cossack, he'd be an expert horseman, slashing sabres at superpowers, swinging to glory, claiming freedom. So what is freedom? Well, one aspect of freedom is the ability to be able to go back home when you choose to. But what if you can't go back home, as was my dad's case? Well, in that case, then the opportunity to make a home somewhere else is another way of finding freedom. And that's what happened. Thousands of Ukrainians came to Britain, and they started a life from nothing. So my dad came here with very little, and he rebuilt his life. And consequently, because of what he'd been through, he was always very thrifty. You know, he could be quite tight at times. He was always saying, shut the door to keep the heat in, or ask us to turn the lights off. So this next poem is all about my dad's thriftiness. It's called Platform Boots. It was the early 70s, and I was in my early teens. I had an entry-level pair of cheap platform boots. I wore them with my flared jeans. Then along came the Sex Pistols, and instinctively I knew I was really a punk. I looked at myself in the mirror and I realised I was wearing junk. I decided no more glam rock or loose progressive fuzz guitar meanderings, or long-haired hippies with a fondness for harps and mandolins. I took off the platform boots, opened a cupboard and threw them in. I got myself some Doc Marten boots, straight-leg jeans and safety pins. Now, my dad noticed I wasn't wearing the platform boots anymore, so he said he'd wear them to work. He gave them a home on the factory floor. One day he came home, said he'd nearly come a cropper. He tripped over in the platform boots, ended up with his neck on a steel cutter. He just managed to pull himself back, only a split second to spare. To be fair, platform boots aren't something an old Ukrainian would wear. They were never his taste, but he didn't want them to go to waste. He wanted to save them, make use of them, but by then he knew the risk was too great. Thank you.